I'm really glad you're here today. Thanks for stopping by. I've got a new story to share, so let's dive right in. My name is William. Just a week after my divorce papers were signed, my ex-wife remarried. Yep, you heard that right. Barely any time had passed, and she was already calling someone else her perfect husband. The way she gushed about this guy, you would have thought she won the lottery. But when I finally laid eyes on the man she'd chosen over me, I honestly couldn't help but laugh. And before you think I'm just being bitter, you need to hear the whole story. Trust me, it'll make sense once you do. Let's rewind to the beginning. I met Evelyn, my ex, during a weekend visit to my aunt's house. My aunt loved when I came by, so I made the trip whenever I could. That particular visit, Evelyn happened to be there too. She knew my aunt from their church group. They weren't super close, but close enough that Evelyn would swing by sometimes to lend a hand or just check in. I'll be honest, the first time I saw her, she barely registered. It's not that she wasn't attractive, she was, but you know how you can meet someone and they just don't leave much of an impression? That was Evelyn for me at first. We exchanged some polite small talk, but if you'd asked me to describe her a week later, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you a thing. A few months later, I made another trip to my aunt's place. Evelyn was there again, but this time she was bustling around helping with chores and cooking. We ended up chatting a bit more, and the conversation flowed better than I expected. Time got away from us, and before I knew it, she was gathering her things to leave. As she was heading out, my aunt nudged me and whispered that I shouldn't let someone like her get away. I just laughed it off. But right before leaving, Evelyn pulled out her phone and asked if we could keep in touch. We swapped numbers, and after she left, my aunt couldn't help but tease me even more. After that, Evelyn and I started texting a lot. We'd talk throughout the day and even late into the night sometimes. It felt natural. Early on, I made sure she wasn't seeing anyone else. Thanks to my aunt, I already knew she was single. With that worry out of the way, I could just enjoy getting to know her. A few weeks later, I finally asked her out. She smiled and said yes. We planned our first date for the following weekend, and from that point things just clicked. We dated for a few years before even bringing up marriage. I always believed that rushing into things was a recipe for disaster. Taking our time felt like the smart move. Eventually, after years together, we decided to make it official. We thought we were doing everything right. But life doesn't always work out the way you plan. After the wedding, I landed a new job that paid really well. The best I'd ever had. The catch? It required a lot of travel. I was constantly flying out of state, sometimes gone for weeks. I hated being away, but I saw it as a short-term sacrifice for a better future. Good money now meant stability later. I thought Evelyn understood that too. First, she acted like she did. She'd send me off with a hug and a kiss. But as the trips piled up, her attitude started changing. Instead of asking when I'd be back, she'd make snide comments like, "Of course you have another trip." No matter how many times I tried to explain that I was doing this for us, she just saw it as me choosing work over her. I'd come home exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open, and she'd be waiting, ready to pick a fight over the smallest things. She even started accusing me of cheating. At first, I thought if I stayed calm and didn't feed into it, the accusations would die off. They didn't. They only got worse. Home started feeling less like a sanctuary, and more like a courtroom where I was always on trial. I found myself staying out longer when I was back in town just to avoid the tension. But the truth was, I wasn't happy away from home either. I even started looking for new jobs that didn't require travel, but none of them paid enough to support us. I felt stuck, choosing between financial security and a crumbling marriage. I remember coming home from one trip, and for once, Evelyn greeted me with a small smile. I thought maybe, just maybe, things were starting to get better. For a while it seemed like it. But then I noticed she wasn't home as much. She said she was visiting friends or running errands. I tried not to jump to conclusions. I didn't want to turn into someone who assumed the worst just because my wife had her own life. But deep down, something didn't feel right. One afternoon, Evelyn told me she was heading to a friend's house. Nothing unusual. A few hours later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find the very friend Evelyn claimed to be visiting standing there, asking if Evelyn was home. I just stood there, stunned. I let her inside, all the while trying to figure out what to do next. After a few minutes, I picked up my phone and called Evelyn. She answered cheerily and told me she was, in fact, at her friend's house. I looked across the room at her friend sitting on my couch and felt a flood of anger I can't even describe. That moment was when everything snapped into focus for me. When I called Evelyn that day, there was a strange heaviness in my chest. I asked her simply, "Is your friend with you?" Without even hesitating, she said, "Yeah, she's right here." That was the moment I knew she was lying bold-faced, without a flicker of guilt. I didn't argue or press her further. I just said, "All right, talk to you later," and hung up, sitting there silently, staring at her friend who was sitting right in my living room, oblivious to what had just happened. I decided I wasn't going to storm off or cause a scene. I would wait until she came home and confront her properly. This time there would be no smooth talking her way out of it. Hours later, when Evelyn finally walked through the door, I was ready. I asked her plain and direct, "Where were you today?" She repeated the same lie without missing a beat, claiming she'd spent the afternoon at her friend's place. I stayed calm. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I simply told her her friend had been at our house earlier looking for her. For the first few seconds she tried to stick to her story, insisting I must have misunderstood. So I asked her to call her friend right then to clear it all up. She refused, made excuses about it being awkward, about not wanting to drag her friend into our problems. When she realized her lies weren't working anymore, she flipped the entire conversation. Instead of coming clean, she attacked me, saying I had checked out emotionally a long time ago, that I always put work before her, and that maybe if I had been a better husband, she wouldn't have needed to find someone else. She even tried to accuse me, suggesting that since I traveled so much, maybe I had someone on the side too. Eventually, the truth came out. She admitted she was seeing someone else. Someone who, according to her, treated her better, made her feel appreciated. Someone completely unlike me. She didn't hold back, rattling off all the ways this new guy was superior. When Evelyn finally laid it all out, I didn't fight, didn't beg. I simply accepted it. The next morning, I called a lawyer and started the process of divorce. It was without a doubt one of the hardest decisions of my life, but also one of the clearest. When someone shows you they don't value you, you don't stick around hoping they'll change. You walk away. What they don't tell you about divorce is how long and painful the process is. It's nothing like what you see in movies where someone signs a paper and walks away free the next day. No, it's endless paperwork, constant meetings with lawyers, exhausting court dates. Every small decision, who keeps the couch, who pays for what, turns into a fight. And through it all, you have to keep your emotions in check because the system only cares about what's fair, not about who hurt more. While I was going through all of that, Evelyn didn't seem to be struggling at all. She packed her things quickly and moved in with her better man. Anytime we had to talk, mostly about legal stuff or splitting up our stuff, she made sure to throw in a few digs, smiling as she told me things like, "You were never enough," or "Thank God I found someone who actually treats me right." Stung at first. I won't pretend it didn't. But eventually, I realized I couldn't let her words live in my head anymore. I couldn't control her actions, but I could control how I responded. After almost a year, the divorce was finally finalized. She walked away with a few things, but I kept what mattered most. More importantly, I kept my dignity. And that was priceless. A week after the paperwork was done, someone casually mentioned to me that Evelyn had already remarried. I remember just standing there for a moment, surprised. Not angry, just surprised that she hadn't even waited. She jumped straight into a new marriage like it was nothing. I didn't wish her harm. Honestly, I wished them luck. I never expected to see her again after that, but fate has a sense of humor. About a month later, while I was out running errands, I bumped into her and her new husband. She spotted me first, and I watched her face fall instantly. And when I saw him, the man she had bragged about, the one who was supposedly everything I wasn't, I couldn't help but laugh a little inside. He wasn't some polished, successful guy. He looked scruffy, insecure, like someone who had never left his hometown. Evelyn grabbed his arm and practically dragged him away like she was embarrassed. I smiled, wished them a good day, and kept walking. Not because I hated her. Not because I was bitter. I was laughing because it was clear now I had truly dodged a bullet. There was nothing back there worth missing. That moment felt like a final closing of a door I had needed to shut a long time ago. And honestly, it felt good. Really good. After the divorce, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to rush into another relationship. I needed time to heal, time to figure out who I was outside of the marriage. I had spent so long trying to save something that wasn't even real by the end. Funny enough, after the divorce, one of Evelyn's friends started reaching out a lot. Friendly texts, casual chats when we crossed paths. But I didn't entertain it. I wasn't interested in anything complicated. I needed peace, not drama. There were some hard lessons I learned through all of this. The biggest one? You can't fix someone who's determined to see you as the enemy. No matter how patient you are, no matter how much you try to explain, they'll twist your words and actions into something ugly if that's what they've decided to do. And another truth. You can't lose someone who wasn't really there to begin with. I used to think losing Evelyn meant I had failed, that I let something good slip away. But now I know she had emotionally checked out long before the paperwork made it official. I'm sharing all of this not to gain sympathy but because maybe someone out there needs to hear it. If you're stuck trying to fix something broken, blaming yourself for someone else walking away, listen to me. Peace is better than pretending. Freedom is better than holding on to something that hurts. That's my story. What about you? Have you ever been through something similar? I'd love to hear what you learned from it. Let's talk about it.